Okay, in this video we're going to be making our strap for our basic beginner mochila bag. And I just want to start out with showing you the basics of the bag is just a bunch of chains. Just make chain stitches. I've made, let me see, 4, 6, 8 of them. And I did 150 chains for each for the length that I wanted for my bag, keeping in mind that it will stretch a little bit when it's being worn. So I just wanted to make you aware that it doesn't stretch a whole lot, but it does give a tiny bit. So, but I want to make sure that you know, and I'm sure you all know how to make a chain, but we want consistency in these. If you haven't figured it out already, one of the big concerns or big tasks of overcoming with making these bags is consistency. And even with this, something as simple as a chain, consistency is important. So I do it the same way I do my stitches, where I go all the way up the shaft when I'm making my chains, so that everything's the same size, because you'll see why this is important as we're putting our strap together. But consistency is very important for this. Now I'll show you why. So that was just a sample I was doing there. But let me get this out of the way. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making, I like mine 8 wide. I think that's a nice width. And even when you line them up next to each other, you have to keep in mind that when you actually sew them together, they're going to be a little bit smaller. So, but something you need to understand is in your chain stitch, this is the front of your stitch. Okay. We're going to be working in the back of the stitch in this little hump here, and I'm going to try to get this up nice and close. Oh, I'm not sure if you can see the little hump. Oops, I'm out of the camera. Okay, there we go. There's a little hump right there. And I'll turn it that way so you can see. Okay. And there's the front. Flip it over. And then you'll just see the little hump that runs right along here. And that's what we're going to be working in. So you need to decide which color you want on your outside. You're going to want the same color on both sides of your strap. So I want to do my orchid on the outside, and then I've decided, and I'm laying these all face down, okay, with the hump sticking up. I've already decided what my pattern was going to be. Okay, 2 pinks, 2 yellows, 2 more pinks, and an orchid. That's actually not pink, it's salmon, but okay. So that's what we're going to have for our bag. And we're going to need, I use 2 metal needles. This one's magnetized. I don't know why. I don't even know where I got it from, but it's magnetized and it keeps picking up my other one. I don't know if you saw they were stuck together. But so what we need to do is line them up, and you want to make sure that you're counting your stitches when you make each one, because we want them all to be the same length, since we're going to be working in the little back hump on each of these. If you didn't count right, then you're going to be off a little bit when you get to the end. If you're off a lot, you're going to notice it, but then you can just tuck it away. But I like to count So I made mine, again, I already said this, but I made them 150 stitches long. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our first one, and it's best if you kind of hold it over your finger like so, and you're going to want to find the first. You don't need to go in this real tight one here where your knot was. You want to go in the first hump in the back. Okay, and then you want to pick up the next one. Do the same thing. If you kind of put it over your finger, makes it a little easier to find it, and you put it through. And then our next one, and this is just to hold everything in place. I just keep mine in there the whole time. Go in each one of them, line them all up. Oops, that one flipped over. There's our knot, there's our first one. That's where our knot is, and there's our first hump. Oops. And you want to get it, you don't want to go through that, you want to go under it so that you've got, I don't know if you can, how well you can tell here, but it's going through the whole thread, not in between the threads. Alrighty. Here's our next one. Oops. There we go. And our last one. Okay, so we have them lined up. Let's just get this organized here if we can. Get all of our extra stuff out of the way. I'm working along the back there. I'm going to pull these up this way. You can put these on a clipboard if you want, kind of like when you do macrame and stuff like that. If you want to do that, you can do that. That will work just as well. I just like doing it this way, so I don't have other obstacles I'm dealing with. Okay, then we're going to take our other needle, and this one's a tapestry one. It doesn't have a point. That one has a bit of a point on it. I guess it was for embroidery or something. I'm not really sure. But, and if you have problems putting your threading your hook, the way I always do it, instead of putting my thread through the eye of the hook, I put the eye of my hook onto the thread. And the way I do it is I kind of pull my thread so that just the little tip there of the color is showing through. And then I take my hook and I place it over there. And there it is. It's right through. There's other ways to do it, but I use this for even when I'm sewing. That's a little bit harder to do, and I wear contacts, and my vision's not always the best because my contacts are monovision, which is one eye is for close up and one eye is for distance. It's a little crazy, but it works. And so sometimes my vision, I have to get the right place where I can see my best, but it always works. It's more by feel than by sight, actually. So I have my tail here, my string, my yarn that I'm going to be sewing with it's probably about 6 feet long. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to finish this, but if not, you just have to kind of backtrack and weave in if you don't have enough and you need to add more. I always go back up a few rounds and start weaving in and hide my tail. So what you're going to do is, and you want your the yarn that you're using to attach your chains together, you want it the same color as your outside colors. You want the same color on both on the outside. You want this the same color because you're going to be sewing through each of those little bumps in the back. And if you make it the same color, then you're not going to see it over on your edges. So what we're going to do is we will start in the next bump down. Oops. And you just go through each one. Make sure you're getting the entire thread or piece of yarn. Okay, here we go. Go through. Got it there, and we're going to pull our tail. You want to leave a bit of a tail so that you can, I left probably a foot. Oh darn, oops, it's coming off here. But I left about a foot so that we can sew onto our bag with the other end. Okay, so we went through one side. Now we're going to, now what I do is I flip it over, and I always kind of wrap it over my finger. It just helps those little bumps to stand up. And we're going to go back through the other side on the next row down, and you're going to work right through each of those bumps. And sometimes, oops, there we go, sometimes it's a little hard to see. Here's your next one here. And this is what you're going to do through the whole thing, is just keep going back and forth in each bump. But let me show you how we want this to cinch up. You don't want to make it too tight, but you want it, it's that forever problem that we're having with these bags is consistency. You don't want it real tight so that it's pulling, but if you can see how, that doesn't belong there, that thread, that's a thread from up here. Let's get that out of the way. But if you can see how it's just making a nice, kind of a neat design. I love doing this since I learned how to do it. I really enjoy making these because you can just kind of, it's one of those monotonous things that you do, or kind of monotonous, but it's you're accomplishing something on your bag, and I really like doing it. So I will do one more row. I'm going to go back through our next one, and you're just going to keep going through each one. The next, you're going to be catching the next bump down all the way across, and hopefully when you come to the end, you should be, when you come to the end, at the end of the whole strap, you should be somewhere in the right place. You gotta make sure you're not getting caught up on things. Another problem. But just keep pulling through, and like I said, you don't want to pull it tight, but you want it secure so that it's not, you don't want it cinching in like this. See, you don't want that pulling in there. You want to leave it out. And doesn't that look neat? I really like that. And I hope you do too. This is what we're going to be doing. So I'll be back when I am finished with this. Okay? Have fun.